In response to the growing popularity of ethical shopping, Hobbes explains why ethical shopping doesn't work and why we should instead focus on advocating for policy change. Now, his style of writing overall makes me think that he is reliable, as although he uses dramatic and colloquial language as shown through italics and underlines, he still maintains the use of facts and statistics and quotations as evidence. So let's analyze this scene in particular. He uses short and long sentences, he gives specifics on the locations and colors and details, and he also uses active language and gives almost a play-by-play of the situation. However, he still uses the use of statistics like £2, and he quotes how she earns as little as 13 cents. Now, overall, Hobbes seems to have a view of ethical shopping as having no effect. Now, this might be educated by his background as an NGO consultant, but he's also written articles on the unscalable nature of humanitarian intervention and how buzzwordification undermines conversations on human rights. Thus, he seems to have an association of ethical shopping with buzzwordification, as seen here when he talks about how they advocate against Swastika, Adidas, and Killer Coke, and how he talks about how their small batch hemp-woven Daisy Dukes actually harms labor violations more than helps. Additionally, he's an American who's lived in the Western world pretty much his whole life and is a writer for the Huffington Post Highline. So he seems to have a uniquely American view on the issue, where he seems to hold the American firms as the gold standard against which he compares other companies in terms of their labor rights. He also, as a writer for Huffington Post Highline, he makes two key assumptions in this article. One, that people recognize that labor violations are a problem, and second, that they are willing to do something about it. Now, these are probably appropriate assumptions for the reader base of Highline because they do have a liberal and educated reader base. However, this probably would not be as applicable for the masses of the Western or even the global world. Personally, I've led an NGO based on advocacy against labor trafficking and have advocated for ethical shopping, so I am biased against this article. However, I also do really like Hobbes' articles in general, and my social studies has trained me to appreciate anyone who talks about leveraging network effects. So overall, I do feel like I am able to mitigate my biases, and I do feel like this article has quite clear merits and benefits and legitimacy, but I would still appreciate to hear the response of an advocate for ethical shopping in this article. For example, the company whose video inspired this entire article, Fashion Revolution. Now, they're a movement who calls for greater transparency, and they educate consumers and pressure companies to be more transparent. And I question whether without the work of companies like these, whether Hobbes would even have a reader base for an article like this about labor regulations. Additionally, I question his stance on Walgreens' innocence in the Dhaka fires. Now, he uses the Dhaka fires as a case study of why companies don't have the power to monitor their supply chain and how thus consumer pressure doesn't have an effect. However, both New York Times and the Huffington Post reported that just a few months before this incident, Walmart actually blocked moves that would pay factories higher prices in order to fund safety improvements which might have prevented the fire. Additionally, international pressures played a key role in the milestone court case of this incident that convicted the first ever factory owner in Bangladesh for labor violations, as well as created and enforced stronger regulations to protect labor rights. So overall, although I do feel that this article is a very legitimate one, which contributes to the nuances of the conversation on labor rights, I would appreciate hearing the perspective of an advocate for ethical shopping within this article.